Hey guys, Roshan here from SaturdaySelects, and I would like to welcome you to Sync. Sync is a new podcast series under SaturdaySelects that looks to have a deeper conversation with key people in the creative industry, particularly music, both locally and around the world. The mission of this podcast is to dig into the minds of those behind the scenes and on the front lines of our industry and understand why they do what they do and what makes them tick. Having been involved in the Malaysian music scene for myself for the past 4 years, these people have been major inspirations to a lot of my fellow peers and myself included. But before we begin, I'd like to firstly thank the amazing people at 10 Points Up for jumping on board and collaborating with us and helping us bring the series to life. Collaboration is key, and we're going to be speaking more about how important it is in every episode. With over 20 years of being active in the local and international circuit, our guest today has started from being a flyer boy to handling tours and bookings for legendary clubs and international DJs. From working with Zouk KL, starting Livescapes Asia, and now running a boutique music agency called Plural Asia, he loves music and is extremely passionate about creating the best experiences for his attendees to enjoy. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Adam Matthews.
Yo.
Hey Adam.
What's up?
What's up? How's it going?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Not too bad.
Thank you for inviting me.
Hey, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you making the time.
No, I mean,
Being part of our new podcast.
yeah. I mean, like, tell me a bit more about the podcast. I mean, I don't know much about it.
Well, the podcast is really focusing on creatives, people who've been in the industry for a really long time, not just music. We have a lot of designers coming on board as well. We have DJs, we have club promoters, club owners scheduled over the next couple of weeks. So I think that's pretty fun. We're just highlighting their stories, getting to know a bit about them and their opinions on certain things that have been happening throughout this pandemic and about their experiences that they've had.
I think that's really important. I mean, like, I really thought about this not long ago when a dear friend of ours had passed away, Shaz, right?
Yeah.
It really like hit home that in the past sort of like year and a bit, we lost a few like really important people in the KL industry.
Yeah.
I mean, globally, yeah. I mean, like, it's been crazy, right? I mean, like, I think sometimes I scared to like get texts from people like you go, dude, did you hear? I'm like, oh my god, who is it now?
Yeah.
But Shaz was the one that really hit home. That was like 2 months ago. And I just remember one thing that was really hit home, that basically we are losing more and more of our storytellers.
Yeah,
right?
That's so true.
And I think this is what you guys are doing is good, because like, I mean, these stories are going to last forever. So, none of us are going to last forever, but if the stories can last forever, that's lessons and experiences that we should learn from these people, right?
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, speaking about Shaz and people, that have been in the industry, and we're trying to keep these stories alive, a lot of the people, assume, a lot of the young people especially assume that getting into the nightlife industry means that the goal is to become a DJ. There's various paths that one can take when entering this industry, but your story when we first met was really interesting to me. You started out as a flyer boy back in the UK in 96, and you started promoting parties at Gatecrasher. You worked the summers in Ibiza, and you brought back all the knowledge that you gained back to Malaysia, and you started promoting parties at venues around KL, and eventually launched FMFA, Future Music Festival, in
via
KL.
Zouk KL.
Via Zouk KL.
Yeah.
Could you share with us on how you decided to choose this career path for yourself coming into the nightlife industry?
I mean, it's almost the same as like me asking you, did you choose to be a DJ? I mean, it's hard, right? I mean, you don't choose this career, right? It chooses you, right? I think your life kind of like goes a certain trajectory. I mean, I'm one of those people, like, I truly believe like life is linear, right? There is a start point and an end point, right? And everything that, like, till we are here today, like me and you, I mean, we met not that long ago, maybe 3 years.
2 years.
2 years, right? And but we immediately clicked. We started working together really, really fast, and it's linear because, like, you were in the scene even earlier than that, but we never crossed paths. Really, we haven't. So when I say the career chooses you, it does choose you. I mean, look, I have always loved music from when I was a little boy. And I grew up with a dad that loved music. He was the first guy I knew who collected vinyl. None of his brothers and sisters collected vinyl. Although he had, I'll tell you a story about this soon. But you know, then I have cousins who were in the music industry. I have one very famous cousin, this guy called Josie Thomas, who was one of the most famous musicians in Malaysia for the longest time, and his son is John Thomas, who is and then you know Isaiah, and you know. So like it's like, you know, that literally is a full circle. So I've always been around music. Then when I went to the UK, I found that I didn't have clubs to go to that I wanted to listen to my music, which when you were growing up in the early 90s here, it was all R&B and hip hop, and in the UK it was all Britpop, and at that point hardstyle, and you know. So I was like, you know, something's wrong. So I organized my own nights in uni.
Okay.
And again, like I said, this thing chooses you, because I wanted to listen to this kind of music. I knew a couple of DJs, so I put on a couple of nights in the student union, and these nights just grew and grew and grew. I went from like a 80 capacity room with 300 people outside to, at that point, the biggest club in the city that I went to uni in, which was basically Sheffield in the UK. Big up Sheffield. And yeah, like it literally just grew. And like you say, you know, like I started with flyering because it was my own nights, right? So I would be the one, you know, and my business partner Effie, and big up Effie, who basically stood outside, you know, the clubs at like kick-out time at 3 a.m. in the morning, when all these people coming out drunk and like you're giving out flyers, standing on the street in the corner of like HSBC Bank, and like, you know, in the middle of winter, cold, literally wearing an A-board. I wore an A-board, right? Wow. Giving out flyers and giving out stickers, because last time in the UK, you give out a sticker because if you give someone a flyer would be thrown on the floor, but if you give a sticker, it stuck with them. Most of the time they didn't know it was on them, so they would go home and someone says, "What's that?" And then you see a sticker, like, oh, that guy, you know, stickered me. So it was one of our little tricks back then. So yeah, it just kind of like grew from there, from a flyer boy to running my own nights to going on world tour for the Mighty Gatecrasher. I mean, you know, I was in Ibiza, in Ayia Napa. I came back to the Far East in Hong Kong, Malaysia. You know, I did some crazy tours with them back then.
That must have been like an experience.
Yeah, you know, because that was okay, so basically what they say in electronic music, basically there's been 3 Summer of Loves, 3 blow-ups, right? So the original Summer of Love was the early 80s in the UK, when the first super clubs were, the first outdoor raves were, you know, happening. This is like super illegal parties in fields where people like Carl Cox and Pete Tong and Judge Jules and all those guys were kind of just starting off DJing. So these were like big, huge, illegal raves on the outside. And then the second Summer of Love coincided with when I was in the UK, which is around 95, 96, 97 to almost 98, 99. That was the birth of the super club. So Cream, Gatecrasher, Ministry of Sound, all those big, massive clubs, that was the second Summer of Love. So I was there during that point, and it was great, you know, to see the birth of a counterculture, right? It was literally. And then when that died, then you see the subculture coming out, right? Which is basically then, you know, I believe it's everything's in cycles. So you go from loving a main culture to a pop culture, which then becomes a subculture, underground, and then all over again. Because a lot of the music that you and I bounce around to these days is stuff that I was clubbing to in 98, 97, stuff like that. So like, you know, music moves in cycles. So yeah.
Okay. You've experienced everything from like 96, so it's like almost 24 years and counting. You've had a longevity in this industry that a lot of people, including myself, strive to have. And it's safe to say that a lot of people in Malaysia don't see being in this industry as a serious job. What are some of the things that you've seen and experienced that others have overlooked to have longevity in the industry?
That's a great question. I think the first thing is basically ego. Yeah, I mean, like, look, if you're in it for the ego, then you're in it for the wrong reasons. I think come back to you and me, where we vibe, again, it's always music, right? I speak to you a lot, and it's always like, yo, have you heard this? Or yo, have you seen this? You know, and it goes back to basically, why are you in it? If you're going to be in what we call nightlife, right? Nightlife is based around music. So you got to love the music first, right? If you start off with basically loving the fact that you're on the front door saying, yeah, you can come in, you can't come in, then you're in it for the wrong reason, right? I've seen, we have seen a lot of people, DJs included, MCs included. I'm not calling anybody out, but like we've seen a lot of people who basically just there because they're enjoying the limelight, right?
Yeah.
That's the wrong reason, yeah. And sorry to say, but I doubt people like this are going to be there for a long time. So first of all, it's get the ego out. Know why you're there. It's you're there for the music, right? My second thing is basically, and I call this my my official drug, is basically I genuinely love seeing people on the dance floor. Okay. Right? I love it, yeah. I love that moment. That last time when we were in Gyro, we used to like hang back, right? Yeah. And we used to like look at people and just go, yo, fist bump, that's dope. That's fire, because when we seeing people dancing to an artist that we book, local or regional or international, doesn't matter, but like we put that on and we seeing people like, hands in the air pump, fist pumping or just hugging each other, that's a drug, man. Yeah, that's a drug, and that's why I promote music. I don't promote nightlife. I don't think I do. Not in that sense. I promote nightlife as a carrier for the music, so I promote music.
Okay, so like being passionate about music would be like the key, you would say.
Yeah, like again,
being passionate about it.
I think the passion is really, really one thing, but you have to figure out why. You have to identify why you're passionate. Why you're passionate. There's nothing wrong with having an ego. Honestly, it's just like, it's fine. It's good. It should be part and parcel about who you are. You've never heard, look at all the great promoters in the world, right? Yeah. They all have ego, right? Yeah. They all do. All the great artists in the world, they all have ego. But I think that, at some point, they let their passion for what they're doing come out first. And then the ego surrounds that. It's fine, Okay. Some of the most egotistical guys in the world. Deep Flow and West, I'm so sorry. Like, I love the guy, but God, ego, but he just loves the music, man. Yeah. Again, James Zabila, you would not think that he has an ego, but he does. But like, God, he loves the music, I swear to God, some of these guys, when they look at you, I don't think they're looking at you. They're looking at codes. They're looking at ones and zeros, and they're looking at like, Ableton. they're looking at pieces that you're a waveform to them, right? Yeah, but that's a longevity. I think the other thing is basically, damn, take care of yourself, man. Yeah. Right? I think
we're definitely going to get into that later as well. About
take care of yourself, take care of everybody around you, because look, this as much as people, okay, you and I, we've had this conversation before. Sometimes people walk into this business thinking it's glamorous. Yeah. Right? And I assure you it's not. It's not. That period where you're in a club and you're setting up.
Oh yeah.
The nerves.
Yep.
Right? Man, we always say bang balls, right?
Bang balls.
The nerves that you have, just from the setup, you're doing your decor, you're getting everything right, you're putting your heart and soul. This is the promoter in us comes out. We put everything out there, and we're literally bearing your soul, hoping that the people that are supposed to come, who told you, I'm going to go come on a guest list, or I'm going to be there, I bought a ticket, or I got a table or whatever, that you hope that they're going to come, right? And you and I also, again, this conversation, like the worst point of any promoter is that half an hour before the doors open, and probably the 1 hour after that when no one is in the club. Yeah. Or just a few people come and you're like, oh my God, no one's gonna come. What are we gonna do?
And you're just worried and stressed out.
Right?
Yeah.
We've been through that a few times, and and then somehow that magic happens. Yeah. Right? And people start to turn up, and people are in there, and people are on the dance floor, people at the bar, and people are going, yo, shot. you know, and that's so much fun, man. I mean, like I love that moment.
That's what keeps us going, really, like that end of the night, seeing people.
Yeah.
But you speaking earlier about the setting up beforehand, the decor, you know, getting everything ready. In between the madness, calmness also almost doesn't exist in our case. No. You know, especially from people on the outside of the industry looking in.
Yeah.
Just to go back a little bit, when Future Music Festival in 2014 got cancelled, how did you react to the situation, and how did you manage to stay mentally strong with what came after?
Gosh, I think that, I mean, it was devastating. Yeah. You know, definitely devastating. I think Iqbal and Rahul, who were actually on site, took the brunt of it. I was actually in the hotel with the artists.
Okay.
So, you know, that the decision, right, came to them first, and you know, they faced the police, they faced, you know, on the front, you know, and then in the back was me having to explain to the artist, you know, it's like, I'm so sorry, you're not going on your bus anymore. To the side, you know, I remember being at the Hilton, and then, you know, obviously your phone's blowing up, and you have to choose who you answer and don't answer, right? Because again, it's a very delicate situation. Yeah. So, and obviously, you know, all those people that you haven't heard from, you know, those who call you for guest list is one thing. Those who want bad news from you, that's another one, you know.
that's a whole different delivery of news.
Bro, are you okay? I'm like, fuck you. You know, of course I'm not okay, but how do you cope, man? There is no way but to keep yourself, you know, grounded. Yeah. To understand that the world might be coming down on you. Yeah. Because even mentally and physically, that was tough. You know, I remember like feeling like a pain in my chest. I mean, like not a heart attack, but like just heartbreak. Yeah. That was that was painful, man. That was really painful to know that something that you had worked almost your entire life to get towards. I mean, like, look, that year, that lineup
was insane.
I honestly don't think anyone will see that in a short lifetime, right? Wow. Ever in Southeast Asia again. Yeah. That was an international lineup.
I was right outside the stadium when it all went down. Like, why aren't we going in? I just want to see Macklemore and Ryan Lewis.
Yeah. You know, look, we had to tell Pharrell.
Oh God, I can't imagine that.
We had to tell Pharrell, you know. Oh man, the most heartbreaking one was basically Eric Prydz.
Oh yeah.
God, you know, like I flew to London. You know, I was in London, and remember being at the management's offices, the agency, William Morris's offices, and you know, and speaking to the Australian partners and messaging Iqbal and Rahul, and you know, like saying, hey, you know, there's a possibility that Eric might fly to Asia. Yeah. You know, that was the thing, right? Because Eric did not fly. Yeah. Right? It was already like a huge thing that Eric flew from LA at that point to Australia to do the Australian run of Future Music Festival. And then to get him to agree to fly from Australia to Asia was, you know, it was tough.
I can imagine.
And you know, the Australian partners, you know, Brad and Jason, and did a great job to convince us. And then I remember being at the London offices and also saying like, look, we really want to have him. You know, we think it's going to be a great show, and it would have been Eric's first Asian show.
Wow. Okay.
Or definitely his first Southeast Asian show. And you know, then it was agreed that he would fly to Singapore to perform a very special show at Zouk Singapore. Okay. And then drive up.
Wow.
From, you know, that day.
Yeah.
And the fact that we had to call him while he was already in Malaysia, I believe he was in Aikro, and to tell the tour manager it's not happening, and then he having to turn around and go back to Singapore. Car, wow. Right? Ah, man.
At least like Eric Prydz has been to Aikro.
You know, Malacca, what up? You had Eric Prydz.
But speaking on like artists like Eric Prydz that you've booked for FMFA, I'm gonna name you some artists that you've previously booked, and maybe you can share with us a very brief experience, fun, sad, funny, and you know, we can get a little bit of insight behind the scenes. Wu-Tang Clan.
Okay, so the Wu guys are Redman and Method Man were in KL for FMFA. Obviously, because of the cancellation, they stayed in their hotel and smoked a lot and ate a lot of fried chicken. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not joking. Like, it was like a constant delivery of fried chicken.
Did they try like Malaysian fried chicken?
I mean, we gave them everything. I mean, they were literally in brickfields. Yeah,
wow.
They were literally in brickfields. So like we went down to I can't remember the name of the shop, but there was this one that's super dope. You know, like ayam goreng.
Ayam goreng.
You know, and it was crazy. You know, it was just like, we want that. You know, and but I mean, look, it was surreal.
Yeah.
Right. It was really surreal, and I remember at that point, I was Maybelline and a couple of other people were like also like helping with the artist liaison.
Okay.
And like, you know, just getting very blurred messages from them saying we need more.
It happens.
They were great though.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
What about Armin van Buuren?
Man, he's such a sweetheart.
Yeah, I can imagine.
He's really such a sweetheart, and you know, like every story about him being a nice guy is the absolute truth. He makes so much time for everybody. And considering like what, he is still till today the most successful #1 DJ in the world.
Okay.
From the hallowed offices of DJ Mag.
Yeah.
But you know, like his personality, like, you know, it's so true. Look, and he is human, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you a really funny story. We don't think that, you know, someone like Armin comes, you know, private jet goes off. He doesn't, you know, like he comes, obviously he flies business or whatever, but like there's no private jet or anything, not for anywhere in Asia anyway. And I remember that he was performing at Zouk KL one year, and David Lewis, his manager, flew with him, right? And him and David, we hung out for a few days. I think he was here for 3 days. You know, we hung out in KL, and Armin was like, "Hey, I want to buy an iPhone." Okay, 5S. I want to buy an iPhone. I was like, okay, where do you go to buy an iPhone? Lau Yat Plaza, right? Yeah. So me, David, and Armin went to Lau Yat Plaza
to buy an
iPhone. And in fact, we bought 3 iPhones that day.
Wow.
One for him, one for his wife, and one for David, right? Because they couldn't believe how cheap it was in Malaysia.
Yeah, exchange rates.
Right? Exchange rate was, and it was literally at a point when it was just came out, and like everywhere else had gone, it was sold out. So iPhone, obviously, Lau Yat Plaza. Yeah. Was there. So like he goes there and he was astounded by all the gadgets. I mean,
and
you know,
electronics.
Like he was just good, like he was like a little kid, you know, like you take a kid to Toys R Us. There was Armin and Lau Yat Plaza, right?
Wow.
He was running around going, whoa, and he was just like, you know, and then by looking at all these stupid gadgets, and you know, like it's weird, you know, like, and I was just like, wow. And then the rest of the time he was just like setting up his iPhone and like playing the games, and and I'm like driving, just going, of my car,
playing games on his new iPhone from Lau Yat Plaza.
Yeah, you know, and again, when he came for ASOT, he was just a darling, you know, like, you know, considering that he was the world #1 DJ with the world #1 internet radio show at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just a boy. Yeah.
Wow. And last but not least, Mos Def.
Oh man. Shout out to my boy Sanjeev, aka Buddy Love,
Buddy Love,
Exo Groove. Oh man, so
the Panther himself.
The Panther, right?
Yeah,
the Sex Panther. Mos Def. Now he was a handful, right?
Oh gosh,
he was a handful. He had just converted at that point to be called Yasin Bey, right? And we had booked him for a show for a launch of an internet, a digital platform. And we were hosting him, and Sanjeev was taking care of him, right? And Yasin was he's quite infamous for not turning up to airports, right? Really, really infamous. And we basically waited for 6 different flights. I waited for a couple, but it was mainly Sanjeev waiting at airports, not knowing whether he was going to turn up or not.
Oh my gosh.
And there was one day we actually were at the airport and we tried to find out whether he was on, and we went to the Malaysia Airport's office and we found out that he was booked on 6 different flight manifests. So 5 different flight manifests, and he
Wow.
just didn't turn up for any single one of them. And he finally turned up, and he was dope. He was super cool. And like, he turned up, and literally, he only had one backpack. That was it. He had one backpack with everything in his life, right? He turned up, and Sanjeev, that point was basically, this is one of the first ever artists that he had handled. I mean, like, I threw him down the deep end, like, threw him
Of all
into a
people,
fire, right? You and I know, Sanjeev's a warrior, right?
Yeah.
Bro, oh my God, I don't know whether he's going to turn up. Oh, bro, I think we got to cancel the show, bro. And I was like, chill, okay? He's going to turn up. He's going to turn up. Yeah, he'll come. Let's have the faith, right? Keep the faith. And sure enough, he turned up, picked him up from the airport, came, rocked it, right? He literally came, dropped his backpack off in the hotel, which is next to the club. It was at Last at that point. He ran to the club, rocked it for 2 hours, right? And then he just wanted to hang out after that. And I remember we were all sat outside Last, and he was sat on a luggage trolley. He was just answering questions from everybody. And everybody was there was a queue of people outside just going, hey, can I ask you about this? Can I ask you about that? Can I ask you about Slum Village? And he was just like, yo, and then after a while he was like, okay, I'm going to sleep.
Because he's like a bit of a philosopher as well, like
my
deep
God.
thoughts, like
Crazy.
he's got opinions.
I mean, he is the manifestation of who he is.
Yeah.
Right? So at some points you see him as Mos Def, and sometimes you see him as Yasin Bey. And literally you can tell who was talking, right? And it was crazy. Like we were like, whoa, that's a Mos Def story, and that's a Yasin Bey philosophy. Right?
Right.
It was great, but his torture of Sanjeev did not end there. Right? His torture of Sanjeev ended the next morning when Sanjeev couldn't find him to take him to the airport. And finally he found him in his room. He was asleep, and Sanjeev was losing his mind because he was like, he's not going to go onto his flight, he's not going to go to Hong Kong, and he's not going to turn up for his gig, and he was fretting.
Freaking out, yeah.
Finally he got into the car, and he was like, Sanjeev again, bro, no, like, this guy is so difficult to work with. I'm like, chill. And you know what? Sanjeev was so angry with him. But to all his credit, Sanjeev really kept his calm. Because I thought Sanjeev was going to blow up. He kept his calm and just made sure that he got him to the airport and got him checked in and all that. But during the car ride, he told Sanjeev one thing that, I swear to God, if that was me, I would have, ripped this guy to pieces. But Sanjeev miraculously kept his cool. He just said, my daddy told me, don't wait for a plane, let the plane wait for you.
Wow.
Or something to that effect. Oh, bless Sanjeev. But yeah, I mean, that was a great gig. And I'm glad to say that, I hosted Mos Def.
Yeah, that's so dope.
Yeah.
So when you're booking artists like this, whether it's for club shows, live shows, artists or DJs, what are you thinking about? What is your process in trying to decide who is going to be the opening act?
Okay, so support.
Yeah.
The support acts or
who are the
opening.
support acts? How do you choose the supporting acts for these artists or for festival stages like FMFA? What do local acts need to do to really stand out and be unique in their own way to really capture an attention of a booker to open for these artists?
I mean, it comes back down to what we talked about, right? I think bookers, I mean yourself included, we have started to see through the bullshit, right? So those artists that are honest, that are out there, they're doing it for the right reason, and there is also a certain art to it, I guess, to make sure that you're always in the realm or in the vision of the booker. I think that's really important. So I think the first thing basically artists should do is just make sure that whatever they're doing it with pure honesty. Purity is so important. It is important to also keep updating everything that you do, right? And making sure that whatever you're doing is done with respect, Okay. Sometimes I can see a lot of people put up mixtapes, and you can hear from the mixtape everything's been ripped.
Okay.
Right? If you don't respect the artist of the music that you're playing for, right, then don't expect me to respect you. I think that's something, a mixtape, especially when it's like a demo, put effort into it, right? That's one thing. Make sure that your socials make sure everything that you portray, that you want to portray out there is who you are as well.
Yeah.
Again, me and you, we can see the bullshit. We can see through the bullshit, When people start posting like, smashed it, killed it, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You and I know, right? Don't get me wrong, it looks impressive to the followers, but to the people who are going to book, we see right through it.
They're pretty aware.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, as a promoter, I think it's just basically making sure that I'm consuming the right material out there, like listening to enough music, not really going down too many rabbit holes. I try to make sure that I have, enough understanding out there of what I'm listening to and who I'm listening to, and but I think most importantly is having a really good group of people that you trust around you, right? Whether it's a DJ, a promoter, a music producer, I count you in that's my circle. I count, people like Sanjeev again, Carla, my business partner, she's got great taste in music as well, on the trance and the electronic side. And, I have a few people that I kind of rely on, right?
Okay.
So whenever we have big decisions to make, I don't make it alone. There's never such a thing as you making it alone, right?
Okay.
You got to make sure that basically you put feelers out and make sure that you're on the right track. Yeah.
Understand.
And more than anything else, I think as bookers, we should give people chances.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
It is so easy to book just the normal names that are going to bring people through the door.
Yeah.
But assume there's 2 or 3 warm-up acts before your main act. You should always give a chance to some people who you believe in. They may or may not be the best DJ, but if their heart is in the right place, if they got a good ear for music, if they have good spirit, why not?
That's
right?
True.
Why not? Because that one little step to give them might propel them to be the next us.
Yeah.
Right? Or to be the next you, or to be the next Dahlia, I think that's really important, because if we don't give them that chance, and also, very, very important, I know it's weird to say this in this point in time, but representation.
Yeah.
Right? So important. I mean, we can't keep booking certain demographics or certain types, right? I think it's important to give people of all walks and races and walks of life, and also genders, right?
Yeah.
I think we need to basically, as promoters, as bookers, we need to basically understand that our responsibility is to also portray representation across all sense. So it's very important. That's why I keep, whenever I book with Carla, I always ask her look, do we have good female options on the table?
Yeah.
Right? It's really important right now, because the disparity, especially in the trance scene, you have no idea, right?
Okay.
It's 99% male.
Wow.
I think in for your sound, and also definitely for the house and techno, it's a little bit more balanced out. Still a lot more guys and girls, but trance scene, 0.
Wow.
It's such a male dominated side that it's sad. And we want to give them chances, but can't find any. Or they're not knocking on our door. But again, this is you should be in our vision.
Yeah, that's very true. But speaking on trance, Nina Kravis just played a full psytrance set over the weekend, so hopefully that adds in.
I mean, look, people like Nina Kravis, they've been playing trance forever.
Right.
Oh, sorry about that. They've been playing trance forever. They've been playing, trance within their sets, because they understand that sets, there should be no genre.
Yeah.
There should be a groove, there should be a BPM, there should be a storyline.
Should be a feeling.
Right?
Yeah.
And, I pray for one day that you're going to drop some trance into your sets, but I think it's about context, right?
Yeah.
And Nina's one of those great examples, she grew up in music.
Yeah.
If you read any story about her, she grew up with literally a gramophone and tons of records, because her parents are musos, right? And her understanding of music is on another level. And I think that's what's missing. Yeah.
Okay.
That people think, I'm going to play a genre. What genre are you? I only play house.
Mm-hmm. Lacks a diversification.
Yeah. I only play minimal techno. Come on.
Yeah.
Right? Really? And which may lead to your next question.
Yeah. So speaking on diversification, we see a lot of DJs, diversifying their sets. Me myself, I'm playing a lot of house, getting into techno, left field techno, acid house and stuff like that. But yes, it plays a part on the DJs to have a more diverse dance floor. But what can we do as music consumers to create this diverse and forward-thinking dance floor?
I mean, first of all, stop consuming just one type of music.
Okay.
Right? I think that's the main thing. I mean, you know, like your DSPs like Spotify, they have amazing things called Discover.
Yeah.
Right? And it's all about algorithm, right? Because if you just listen to one type of music, it's just going to keep feeding you that one type of music, right? But if you start to say, hey, I'm going to try and listen to something else, the algorithm works, right? I mean, it's based on Last.fm.
Yeah.
You know, and Last.fm is pure algorithm, right?
Yep.
And sometimes when you throw it some curveballs, it surprises you with more suggestions, right?
Yep.
Or radio shows. You're like, yo, what's that? You know, that's I recently discovered this weird thing called Music Map. I don't know whether you've ever seen it.
Music Map.
Look for it, musicmap.org,
Okay.
right? If you type in one artist, it shows you a map, and it's an organic map of all the other artists that sound like that.
Wow. Musicmap.org.
Yeah, something
Wow,
along those lines. I mean, I just found it like, you know, a few months ago, and it's really kind of given me a perspective.
Yeah.
Because I then now understand, like, okay, this is how far this certain artist is away from this artist, but then it starts to show you organically how, you know, they kind of like relate to each other. How true it is, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I really don't know, but it's fun, especially when you got all this time at home, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's really important for consumers, okay? For this part, consumers. Consuming is one thing. Supporting, go to shows that are not necessarily in your comfort zone as well, right?
Okay.
Because promoters like us, we rely on people coming to the shows, right? So if your friend says, hey, I know this is not your thing, but why don't you come? I think you're going to have fun. Go, right?
Yeah.
I think it's really important to, especially in this point in time in the Great Reset.
Yeah.
I think it's such a good time to basically open up your horizons in terms of not just about consuming music, but like about seeing what's on the other side.
Yeah.
So when, not how, what, when clubs and shows finally go open, I mean, come on, go wild, go to everything.
Try, like, go to a jazz night, go to a techno night,
Absolutely.
trance night, hip hop night.
Absolutely.
Even try everything out.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think there's especially like people in but also because you've been influencing them, but a lot of the people, you and Risky have influenced so many people, right? I don't know whether you guys have force-fed people music or whatever, but like you guys have literally created this kind of appreciation, sub-genre appreciation of the house and techno scene from DJs that are not necessarily of that genre if you look at them 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And honestly, hand on heart, I'll credit you.
Wow.
And Risky,
you.
for doing that through the radio show and through just personally pushing music. And that's great, you know. And I think that if you can do that for your audience through the radio show, or both radio shows, through like SaturdaySelects and also through Spectrum, imagine what other people should be doing. I think that's really my point.
To really educate the crowd and, you know, show them that there's just more than, if they're a house music listener, that there's a lot more than just house music. There's techno, there's left field techno, trance and all that.
Yeah. I think the word educate is really dangerous though.
Okay.
Right?
Why?
Because when you say educate, immediately a wall comes up. School. Yo, don't wanna, you know? It's like, you know, like there's you know, like how we used to say bojo.
Yeah,
right? You don't go to bojo. So I think we should have this kind of bojo culture for music as well. It's like, yo, come on, listen to this. You know, as opposed to like, I would like to educate you about this genre. Because immediately all those people that are not so open, that wall goes up. Yeah. And then it's like, no one lah, right? Okay. So I think our job is basically to try to feed organically. Yeah,
organically feed these people.
And, you know, and influence in different ways through the sets, through bookings, through, you know, the radio shows, or however, really, you know, even using your social media power to just kind of say like, that, I just listened to that. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And even for people like Maybelline and the people at Babel Dance, right? Yeah. And all the dancers, I mean, look, how they are sharing music is basically through dance. But like how I see the understanding, there are dancers out there now in this scene that was specifically listening to hip hop, and now they're listening to house and dance hall and all that.
Wow.
But I think it's all kind of like come together because like, you know, through Mayhem Jam and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When we book you and you're playing dance hall and they're like, hey, what's that?
Yeah.
I like that. You know.
Yeah.
I think that helps. You know. So this organic movement that we're creating through being a promoter, DJ, you know, through the dances, through the radio show and everything else. I mean, that needs to be buoyant. Everybody needs to support each other.
Okay. Well, you mentioned that a lot of people aren't open to the idea of being educated, especially when they use the term educate regarding genres.
Yep.
But I think students who are studying music are in it to like really learn and educate themselves about classical music and all the different types of music. You have a house in the UK that houses your entire record collection that you've been collecting over the years. And I think from a previous conversation that we've had, you mentioned that you've made it available to students around the area as an archive.
Yeah.
How important is it for the scene and community to actually have an archive of music history, local music history especially, I would say?
I mean, look, I didn't start off to have that for other people.
Okay.
It's just that because it's there and I felt that, okay, like there are full discographies that I have, right, that probably exist in like, because I had a friend who owned a record shop, and basically he used the, hey, this white label just came in and we think it's going to be signed to Defected. So like basically I have some of them that were basically white labels before they got signed to Defected.
Wow.
So like, you know, I've got 2 copies of white labels and 2 copies of the actual Defected release, and like, you know, that thing, it didn't come on, it didn't start because I wanted to like, hey, make that into an archive, right? It was just genuinely, like I say, I love music, right?
Yeah.
But eventually when I decided to come home, I had a choice. I mean, you fight with me about it, but like I had a choice of like kind of like making sure that it was there so that DJs and producers, especially producers who basically wanted to listen to get a sample, you know, or to get inspired, it's there for them, all right? And it's, you know, I've got a couple of friends who I really trust, and you know, they are like the gatekeepers, the gatekeepers of the collection, and you know, the collection is growing.
Wow.
Right,
Okay.
it keeps growing because like someone will say, hey, you know, someone stopped or like has digitized his whole collection. He just wants to give it to you, so it's just there. So like that thing is still, you know, like so. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to know there's like, you know, over 10,000 records somewhere.
Wow, 10,000 records. That's insane.
That, you know, I can't bring it back anymore because it's now not mine anymore. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to the community. Right. Yeah. So it's nice to know that that's there.
Yeah.
And that's hopefully inspiring a new generation. Yeah. You know, and keeping a certain generation still there and relevant. That's also the other point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the house that you have, this entire record collection is in the UK, and right after that, you came back to KL around 2006, 2007?
2007.
Yeah, 2007. Yeah. And you jumped right back into working with Zouk KL for 5 years. And I have a quote from an interview you did with The Star, where you spoke about rebuilding the soulful house scene in KL. Yeah. Every year there's a generation of people coming back or just coming out to the clubs. Yeah. Like we spoke about earlier, I think some of the responsibilities of booking DJs falls onto the promoters by staying up to date with their new faces of the global electronic scene and legendary names. Who are your top picks that our listeners should be tuning in 2020?
I mean, you know, for me, and this is weird because like right now I'm in a slightly different phase of my life, right? I started going back. I started to try to work backwards to figure out what key moments in music history has influenced certain things to the new sounds that are out there now, right? So I'll give you a really good example. Defected, right? Okay. If you go back to Defected 001, which is if I'm not wrong, Star Searches, I can't get enough, at 001. Basically, if you take that song and then you basically figure out what was the sample before that and what was the sample before that and what was the flashpoint that basically created this kind of new timeline, that's really important. So I try to now geek out in terms of like what the original DJs and original producers that I first started going out listening to were doing to take a certain sound and like create something. So like, you know, it still comes back to people like Masters at Work, you know. Yeah, Dave Lee, aka Joey Negro, can't call you Joey Negro anymore. So Dave Lee.
Detroit Swindle just changed their name to
Detroit Swindle. You know, we're gonna have another whole long conversation about BLM now. And look, I think a lot of these historians, your DJ Spence, your Charisma. I mean, look, the guy that really got me through the first MCO was Bob Sinclair. And because his daily mix
live streams
crazy mofo, right? Basically, he just decided, okay, today I'm going to dedicate it to disco and funk, right? And I would listen to that whole thing and then start to like Shazam some of the songs because he was talking in French, right? So I Shazam some of the songs and then be just like, wow, what's that? I would now go back. So what I started doing is started going back to guys who are playing really long sets. Your Danny Krivitz, Danny Tenaglias, Laurent Garnier, you know, all these guys, right, who play really long sets. So they're playing, I don't know, 6 hours, 8 hours, and starting to figure out how are they building the sets, what songs are they playing at certain points, those key moments, right, to build the sets, and like how do they shift from, like, just say, you know, jazzy house to like, you know, broken beat. And then broken beat. I mean, Giles Peterson's another.
Dude, amazing guy,
right?
Amazing DJ, selector.
And that's the thing. He's a selector first. Then he's a DJ. He's a great DJ, but he's a selector first. But like, if you listen to his long sets and you start to like kind of like pick those things out. So for me, in answer to your question, like who should I be listening out to 2020? It's like go back. You know, pick out all those old sets, right? Listen to people like Derek Carter. We spoke about Jeff Mills just yesterday. You know, people like that, the historians, you know, listen to what they're doing and like then really take a step back and like say, okay, how is this now influencing what we're listening to now, right? Think about Disclosure, what Disclosure is doing now. You know, they've taken a very UK garage kind of sound, right, which was around in 94, 95, 96, right? But they made it their own. It still sounds the same, but it's not, right? But again, so then it comes back down to the whole like sampling thing. I mean, I was just listening to Rick Rubin's podcast, Rick Rubin's thing with Pharrell the other day.
Oh yeah, no, that was really good.
Such a good one, right? You know, but like there was that point that basically, and you know, it was a point where basically he was talking about being sued for
the sample, right?
The sample, right? The Marvin Gaye sample, right? And him and Rick basically agreed that it was not the same song, but because he wanted to create a sound, right? But then. So then he goes really deep into this whole thing, right? And then you start to listen, okay, like, look, yes, he was going for this Marvin Gaye sound, but he did not make anything close to that, right? And but like, what were the influences around that? So geek out, that's my point, right? I think Rick Rubin, Malcolm McDowell's podcast with Rick Rubin is just this minefield of like amazing anecdotes and music history. So I listen to that.
Nice, that's dope. Well, we're going to segue a little bit into a topic that we're going to be speaking to a lot of our guests about as well. When I speak to other people about you, they always have a memory or a story where you have played a pivotal role in the early development of some of these brands, these clubs, these groups like Danger Disco, for example, because I had this conversation with Faris. And you're big on brands, crews, and collectives working together with each other, although they've never heard of each other before. Yeah. How important is collaboration for the progress of our industry in the long run?
It's the most important thing, right? It's literally the most important thing. If you stay in one lane, you're always going to stay in that lane. And trust me, that road is not going to be lasting forever. Right? The idea is basically for lanes to merge, right? That's the only analogy that I can give to you because I think everybody has something to learn from each other. I think, again, coming back to longevity, when we spoke about it earlier, I think that if there is only one thing I can say about maybe why I'm still here, it's because I'm still a student. Right? I try to always be curious and learn about how everybody's doing everything. What Danger Disco is doing, I mean, they have their own sound and then they have their separate sound, right? What Faris is doing with Bunga is, again, completely, something completely different, but still its own thing. What you guys are doing, I mean, like, like I am always in awe as like how fast you guys don't alter, but like your guys are always doing something slightly new, but it's always relevant, right? I think that if I could put someone who is willing to learn along with you guys and then create something else, isn't that a beautiful thing?
I think that would be awesome, right? If more people were like that.
I mean, I think another person who's amazing at doing this is Ion. Right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, fucking mad genius motherfucker. Like I love the guy to
Ion's
bits, but
from a different planet.
He is, right? Really? But like, how Ion puts these creatives together.
Yeah.
That someone that, you're like, what? How? That's great. I think that's, these kind of things is just so important, because everybody has something to bring to the table.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own story. Everybody has their own like little quirks and nuances and also talent that if you put everything together, it's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And this is just in Malaysia. What about regionally? I mean,
that's
like,
so true.
One thing that I absolutely, it's almost like a pet hate right now, is basically everybody kind of like keeps themselves in either this, I'm in a Malaysia circle or I'm in an international circle.
Yeah.
People forget about this beautiful thing called Southeast Asia, right? The house and techno scene, they're doing really well with it, right? I don't know whether, and also in a certain way, like a little bit like your sound as well, right? There is the collectives that you work with, right? Through Southeast Asia, that's so important, right? And the house and techno guys, they also do that. I mean, you see a lot of these kind of DJs trying to travel, even if the gigs don't pay so much money. Last time when we can travel,
now cannot.
Hopefully, okay, touch wood, but they would go, right, and not just play somewhere, they would hang out. They would go to someone's studio and they work together, and that spirit is so important, right? It's so important. What we don't see in a lot of other things is basically where the collaboration, like between from one collective to another, doesn't happen as often as it should, right? And that very same spirit should also apply to brands. Right?
That's super true.
And I think the brands have only just started to figure that out.
Right?
I
agree with you.
But you want to know why? It's not that the brands have figured it out. It's just that the people in charge of the brands are now our friends. Right? People like Rudy.
Exactly.
People like Bunga, Faris, Lisa, all these people who are now in brands, Eco, and also people who are in places that can actually make a change, like Victor at W, right? How much has he really kind of like supported the whole scene, single-handedly, dude, right? So much respect and big ups to them for like, bringing different scenes together, right? And the brands need to have people like that. But then the collectives and the DJs also have to meet halfway lah. Don't just wait in your bedroom, send out one messenger and hope to get a reply. I mean, like the hustle. I mean, like people forget the hustle.
We got to give special mentions to like local regional DJs and collectives that have been collaborating like with each other. Sivanesh from Singapore, Nandi from House Cartel in Jakarta, Pantai People and Penny in Bali.
Exactly, right?
They've been like working together with one another. Beat Malaysia and KL as well. Nazarod and Funky Roll. They've been working together with House Cartel for a while. And it's really nice to see that happening in the house and techno scene. And I really hope we see a lot more of that once the pandemic is over.
I mean, I think one thing I would say is basically that I think that everybody should be talking to each other, not in the hope to work together. You should just be talking.
You should be just like hitting
what's
them
up?
Checking in on them.
You and Sivanish, the new bromance, right? Right? I'm pretty sure you guys talk, but it's not just about work. Right? You guys just talk, right? And I think this is super important. That it doesn't happen, and it should happen. Right?
No, definitely. Especially with like the pandemic that recently happened, a lot of people around me, like a lot of the DJs especially, fell into this weird headspace. They were overall, it was just a very depressive state for most people. I saw your transformation.
Yeah.
With the pandemic happening, a couple months in, you got into meditation and yoga, and we were talking really often and communicating. How has this practice been for the past 9 months for you?
I mean, my journey, I guess started in January, because in January, I think I woke up after your party lah. I woke up and I felt horrible. Yeah, I woke up on the 1st of January and I felt horrible. And December was really tough, right? Because we were all working our asses off. But also you were starting to feel the effects of the pandemic in a way. Yeah. Because you were already starting to feel that people would kind of stop going out or whatever. Yeah. And I remember, waking up and just thinking, nah, this is something's not great. I'm burnt out. I need to do that. So basically, I went on this thing called the Plant Power Cleanse by my friends Alex and Marissa, and that was like a 1 week vegan cleanse, right? It's like, and the food gets delivered to you and all that, and it's, look, guys, just go check it out. It's amazing, and that literally kick-started everything, right? I started, counting my steps every day. And then when the pandemic really hit, right, and you have all this time in your hands, I swear to God, the first 2 weeks were horrible. I think we had this conversation. The first 2 weeks, because you think it's only going to be 2 weeks.
I think most people thought it was just 2 weeks.
Yeah. So the first 2 weeks was horrible because I literally did not know what to do myself, right? Yeah. And then when the next time it was announced it was another 2 weeks, I kind of said to myself, I was like, look, I think we're in this for the long run. I didn't realize it was going to be this long a run, right?
9 months.
I think we're, and counting. Yeah. I didn't think it was going to be so. I did like what everybody else was doing. I went online, right? Okay. I went online. I started reading a lot. I started to try to teach myself to practice yoga. Okay. I ate a lot better. I slept a lot better. That was the thing that changed. I think sleep, right? Because sleep was bad, right? I started sleeping a lot earlier and waking up a lot earlier. And right now, that practice still happens today. I still wake up every day right now between 5:30 and 6, right? Wow, okay. And I spend that 1 hour, and it doesn't have to be an hour, but I spend that 1 hour between 5:30 to 6:30 for myself. Okay. Right? So it's whether I choose to practice yoga or I meditate or I choose to exercise or whatever, it's for myself. Yeah. I journal. Right? Oh, wow. That's why I brought that book. Hafiz took away from me. But that book, that's my journal. So I have this amazing. We have the same book. Yeah, the one from Uniqlo, right?
No, Muji.
Muji, sorry, the one from Muji. So the Muji books, right? Basically, I have a ton of them everywhere, right? And they're journals, they're ideas, they're gratitude journals. So it's just a little bit of everything. But having that kind of thing actually written down makes it real. And that makes everything a lot more real and viable, and you touch it, because you touch it, so you see it and you kind of go, so this journey, I didn't force myself into it. It just happened, right? Yeah. But meditation, let me tell you one small thing about meditation. A lot of people get scared of the word meditation. It's not scary, right? It's literally breathing. Yeah. And that's what people have to take out of the thing. Just basically learn to breathe first, right? Learn to breathe first. Then when they say, center yourself. It's breathing. It's bringing awareness to your breathing. Once you do that, you're literally centered. Yeah. And once you're that, you come into a meditative state. Yeah. So there's nothing some people say, stars start to appear and all that. Look, it might not happen, but I think this whole awareness. Yeah. That's meditation itself. So I also do this thing where basically some mornings I'll go to the park and I walk really, really, really fast around this 1.2 kilometer track. Yeah. And sometimes I find myself going into almost a zone, and then I check my counter and I've walked 8 kilometers. Wow. Right, in an hour and a half. But you don't think about it. Yeah. Right? You don't think about it. You're just in a zone. Yeah. But when you come out of it and you basically come back to reality, you meditated. Yeah. Yeah, you did your meditation. I mean, maybe not for that 1.5 hours or whatever, but you went into a zone. You went into a state of awareness. you're breathing really good. I mean, like, because one thing I will say, like, basically, get yourself a wearable, right?
Okay.
Get a wearable. It's cheap one also, okay, because you see they have these apps. And the apps literally tell you everything.
They can help you track everything.
Your sleep, your breathing, your meditation, everything. It's just all there, right? Your resting heart rate. So that really helps because basically you know how you are doing and how you progress.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the flip side of people becoming more health conscious. It helps with the mental state of being home and, especially those who lost their jobs and the future being uncertain. But with mental health being a taboo topic for our industry, how important is it for us to come together and communicate about what we're facing and try and help each other, especially during a time like this?
I think it's easier now.
Yeah.
When you have no job.
More time to talk about it.
Yeah, and also when it's obvious that everyone is going through it.
Yeah.
But I think, it was a huge issue, right, last year.
Yeah.
Right? You and I know of a lot of people who were in trouble.
Exactly.
Right? I was in trouble, right? I would happily, openly say that now, right? I was in trouble. I mean, I was not in peace, right? And I just basically coasted along. I mean, even though I speak to Carla all the time, and I tell Carla, like, look, I'm not having a good day, and she's like, I think we realize now that, that there were points that basically we were really in trouble, or I was, or she was, or, personally in trouble, but like, we just swept it under the carpet. Just carry on, Let's go out, and one of the things that people used to do is basically, hey, come on, let's have a drink, let's talk about it. Yeah. Having a drink is also a big issue,
yeah.
Right? Because that drink ends up, going to different places and you're leaving an after party at like 6 or 7 in the morning or whatever. That was me, okay?
Yeah.
Still me in a way, but, in different ways. That is not something that is good. I think everybody needs, okay, first of all, as an industry, we need to look out for each other.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's something that we weren't doing. Or we will be, Macha, you heard about that person? Yeah lah, that person, you fucked up lah,
Yeah.
I think that right now, if someone did that to me, the first thing I would do instead of look, hang on, I'm going to go call this person. I'm going to ask someone to speak to that person, because I think that it's more important to just basically not embarrass, but like ask that person to face, yo, are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yo, I heard this, you want to talk about it. Most of the time that person is going to come and brush you off, or they're might be angry with you, or they might, even on the flip side, hey, you stop being so kepo, and then go and tell someone, hey, this fella kepo or whatever. But I think as an industry, we just got to accept that if we really truly care about our ecosystem, then we should not be letting things slide.
Yeah.
Right? That's really, really important. I think we should, as an industry,
look out for each other.
Look out for each other, yeah. Right? And I use the word industry really importantly, because we are an industry,
yeah.
Right? Because you see, imagine if something drastic happens, that affects the industry at large, right? And there are too many mitigating factors out there that basically could cause this meltdown,
yeah,
right, of the industry. So I think that's very important. We should be looking out for each other. Number 2, we should educate ourselves,
yeah,
right? I think if someone's in trouble, we might not be the solution. We might be the start of that solution. But let's just say someone is addicted to drugs,
yeah,
or someone is hurting themselves. How do we help that person? We have to educate ourselves.
Yeah.
It's not like only at that point, oh shit, it might be too late,
yeah,
right? We should know, like, okay, if this is happening to that person, maybe they should be speaking to this person, or I should give this phone number to that person to talk to, yeah. Right? I think it's really important for that to happen. It's not happening.
It's not.
It's not, right? And I think as an industry, something that I'm going to work towards in 2021, this problem is one thing, but this problem in men in our industry is a whole new level.
That's
right?
a different story.
It's a whole different story. So I think that one thing that I've had during this MCO is basically I've become closer to my buddies, right?
Okay.
Like, I'll speak to you, I'll speak to you, I'll speak to Sanjeev, I'll speak to Jaden, I'll speak to like a lot of, and like I realized that basically guys need guys.
Yeah.
Right? You need a guy to just basically oh my God,
today,
what happened today, we forgot about that.
Yeah.
We forgot about that, because we're too involved in our own lives and we see these people sometimes socially, but we have forgotten about the mama session.
Yeah.
All right? But not necessarily, but what I'm hoping to do moving forward is to just try and get guys to speak to each other, or guys to do that guy things with each other that does not involve drinking or going out or whatever. Right?
I feel you. You're speaking a lot about the industry, and before we close it off, I really want to talk about the toxicity that exists in our industry. Is there such a thing as good collective industry mental health?
Absolutely, or there should be.
There should
right?
be.
I speak to a lot of people abroad, especially through Wyatt Music Week. So like since we took on Wyatt Music Week, one of the things that we have pushed forward, right, is basically mental health in the electronic music industry, which is at its lowest, is still at its lowest. I mean, look, just not long ago, we lost another one. Yeah. Right? We lost IO. Yeah. Right? And prior to that, we've lost a lot of people, and I've got personal friends, who are really suffering, like Benga. Yeah. Right? Who not doing too well, and I'm reaching out, sending you vibes, bro. But this happens because the industry is toxic, right? Yeah. You are pushing yourself all the time. You have to do this and you have to do that, and you're basically forgetting the one most important thing that is basically yourself, right? The industry has been taking care of itself financially healthy, but the underlying part of health is not there. I mean, not just mental health, physically. Yeah. A lot of people are basically borderline going to have heart attacks, right?
People in our industry,
people in our industry, from the smoking and the drinking and the late nights. I mean, look, this is not a great life for us. People have to understand that basically. Sometimes, I remember when you were still staying in Bangsa. Yeah. Right. You leave a club. You leave 6 at 4, 5 a.m. Yeah. Right, and then dude, we got a meeting at 11. Or we have to go in. We both turn up wrecked. Yeah. Right, and it's like that's not good. Yeah. That really isn't good.
It's not a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. I'll tell you, during that point, I remember so when I first had my first wearable, right, my resting heart rate was 75, dude. Wow. Right, that's not cool. Yeah. Right, that's really, really tough, and I was constantly in the high 90s throughout the day. Wow. That's not good. That's literally your heart beating a lot faster than it should, and pretty damn sure that wasn't checking, but my blood pressure would have been too high. So the industry as a whole needs to rethink about how we are treating everybody else. Yeah. Right? Not just about, that guy's in trouble. Forget about that guy's in trouble. That guy should not have not been in trouble in the first place. Yeah. We should be creating an environment around us that everybody's taking care of each other. Yeah. Right? That means if someone comes out, instead of taking someone out drinking, take them for a hike. Yeah. We've got one of the most beautiful countries in the world, right, when it comes to nature, right? Yeah. And since MCO and since all this, I've discovered hiking, right? We should be taking our guests out hiking. Let's give them that kind of lifestyle, so that basically after a night, making sure that basically when they're hydrated, making sure that they are, they are healthy. Because when we send them off to the next thing, that next promoter should also be taking care of them like that. Yeah. That's, we should be taking care of each other. So I had this conversation with, I can't even remember who, but basically there should be a code of conduct for promoters and artists. Okay. Right? That's interesting. Last time, it was only, can you fulfill the rider? Yeah. Right? And you and I have seen some crazy riders, right? We've seen some stupid riders. We only fulfill the rider. There should be a social rider. There should be a mental health, there should be a health rider. We should have a certain amount of SOP to make sure that when we receive an artist or we receive a guest, whether it's international, regional, or local, we should also be looking out for them. Yeah. Right? And making sure that they go off to the next person in good health. That's true. Right? Let's just start with that. Yeah? I don't know. There's a lot of work that we need to do as an industry. Toxic, absolutely toxic. But on the flip side, now that we recognize it's toxic, we should also be having the other side of things. Yeah, we should put forward initiatives to really counter that. Yeah. So can we expect some of these new initiatives and new projects coming from
Adam, from yourself, from Adam Matthews and Plural Asia going forward into 2021?
As long as you're on board.
I'm always on board.
Look, I think it's not about me or it's not about Plural. I mean, like me and Carla have been talking a lot about like what we're going to do next, right? In terms of that, I mean, also with John, with Wyatt, right? Yeah. Where are we going to go next? Because obviously the previous industry, bye-bye, right? I mean, like the way we used to operate. But the way we're operating now, like this, I mean, if I came to you 6 months ago and said, hey, I'm going to be set, having an interview podcast, you're probably going like, that's a cool idea, but I never thought of that, right? So the industry is evolving at a very fast rate, and I think we all are all evolving. So what's next is basically me going back to the drawing board, right? Okay. In terms of like how we can all take care of each other in terms of the toxicity, the anti of toxicity, to counter that should be one thing. The mental health things, the thing with guys is like, guys talking to each other is really, really important. I want us as an industry to be more creative and to be more innovative. I think that's, look, we should be, right? Yeah. I mean, we spoke about like the current project that we're doing. That's innovation, coming up with things that would be a little bit more fun and hopefully be able to like keep things moving forward. So I'm not letting, it seems like such a on the fence kind of idea.
Answer, but there are things coming.
No, look, there's a lot of things coming, but it's so hard to say. Okay, one thing I will always say right now is basically I live in the moment. Right? I live in the moment.
Oh, you live in the moment. Okay.
Trying to plan for 6 months right now in this current industry, no.
We don't really know what's going to happen either.
But what I try to do is basically not live in the moment, as in everything I can do at this particular point in time, I will do. Okay. So that becomes a record of what happened at that moment in my life. Yeah. As opposed to what I was like a year ago, where basically in 6 months I want to do this, in 3 months I want to do this. No, just do it now.
Okay.
Right. Fair enough. So being in the moment is very important. So, there's a lot of things about like Wyatt Music Week that's going to come up. Like we want to have a Wyatt Music Conference, right? Wyatt Music Week conference soon in Genting, but we have to wait for where the situation comes out. But like we know, we obviously pivoted. You've been on our virtual conferences and all that, so that we are going to pivot. But like we do want to also create maybe a boot camp. Okay. Right. A boot camp for people like us. Okay. But under Wyatt, where you're not just learning to be a good music producer or something, like be a good financial planner because that's so important, right? Yeah. Learn how to cope with crisis. I mean, if someone had taught me how to cope with crisis, I think I would be in a lot better sense. So I'm trying to create a real world boot camp. Okay. Right? In real life boot camp for people like us. So we're going to do that through Wyatt as well. So there's a lot of things that we are talking about and planning. But again, I'm going to try everything in my power to do it now, but when it can happen.
Awesome. All right, Adam. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Like I said at the start of the thing, I am so in awe with what you guys are doing. Thank you. You and the boys, a shout out to Ivan, my after party partner. Look, what you guys are doing right now is amazing. And please just keep going in every single direction possible, because like honestly, you guys inspire me. You especially inspire me, right? I wish I had the energy to keep up, but
I wish I was in your 20s and at Gatecrasher in Ibiza in the UK. I think that was
you are doing it now.
Yeah,
you are doing it in your way now. That's the only thing I can say. Look, that's. It doesn't stop you that when we eventually, we always talk about like we should go to Ibiza together. Like when all this happens, let's do it. But like
hopefully next year,
whatever you're doing now is in the now, and that's great. And don't stop doing it. Right?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
Adam Matthews. And we'll be back next week with another episode. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you guys.
See you guys.
Yeah, take care. Bye.
Signing out.
Cheers. Take care.